Welcome to SEPSA Talk. I am Evan Sapia Kisi, the host of SEPSA Talk. SEPSA is Center for Better Society Advocacy and Research Africa. SEPSA Africa is a non-profit organization that believes in a better society for all. We in SEPSA Africa believe that a better society begins with you and I. Hashtag, the better society begins with me. For more information, please log on to the various social media platforms: YouTube, SEPSA Talk, Facebook at SEPSA Africa, and Africa, Twitter at SEPSA Africa. Like always, today we bring you another interesting discussion on the topic freedom to connect, internet access and affordability challenges in Africa. If you're able to join us today, or watch us from YouTube, Facebook, wherever, then you must know that it is because you have internet access. The internet has transformed from trendy innovation to the lifeline of our civilization. It drives and powers everything around us, from the mundane to the essential task. Notwithstanding, internet access and affordability have significant challenges in some parts of the world, especially in Africa. In this episode of SEPSA Talk, we examine these challenges and explore the possibilities of creating affordable, high-speed internet for all. And I do this show with my co-host, Mr. Edmond Yeboah. And to help us discuss these important issues are...
So to help us discuss these issues, we have two experts. And we have Dr. Ansah Frimpong, who is a consultant, a researcher, and also development engineer. He has a PhD in computer science from University of Passau in Germany. He has masters in communication and media engineering of science from Offenburg University of Applied Sciences in Germany. He also has a bachelor of science in computer engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. And our second guest is Mr. Isaac Sechi. He's an IP networks engineer with a telecommunication firm in Ghana. He has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, also in Ghana. So, Dr. Frimpong and Mr. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice introduction. We're happy to be here.
Great, and thank you very much, Dr. Frimpong, Ansah, and Isaac Sechi. And if you're also joining us, as I always call them, we are also streaming live on Facebook. So please don't forget to keep your questions coming and your comments, and I bet it would be answered here as we kickstart the discussion. Please join the discussion wherever you are. Those of you who would be joining us also via Zoom, also don't forget to send in your questions. So we'll just begin the show right away, and I'd like to start with you, Dr. Frimpong Ansah. Now, the basic question, or what we want to kickstart the whole discussion with, is if you look at the synopsis, we did mention that there's no doubt that internet is very, very important, I mean, in our lives today. And the question we ask is, how has internet provision progressed till now in Africa? Where do Africa stand in terms of internet access and affordability in the past years?
Well, I would say Africa has actually come a very long way as far as internet connectivity is concerned. And as right now, the issue is not about infrastructure per se, but it's about the management of the infrastructure and innovations around it. That is kind of keeping Africa back or making Africa lag behind the rest of the world. But like you said in the synopsis, internet is very important for the development of any country in Africa and in any country in the world, especially from my country, Ghana. I believe internet access would open many doors that are closed to so many in the country.
So, Mr. Hans, I have a follow-up question for you. You said the problem in Africa is not about infrastructure, but the data also speaks a different language, because if I have to refer to the data, as of 2019, only 28.2% of Africans are using internet.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you are saying this is not a problem of infrastructure. So what is it actually?
Well, when I say it's not a problem of infrastructure, first you have to see where I'm coming from. Back in the days, back in the 80s, the only source of connectivity for the rest of the world was either through satellite or through the SAT1 submarine cable, right? And often than not, it was just one company within a whole country that had the right to capacity on that particular fiber optic cable, which was kind of a cable that was established by consortium of different countries, right? But from the early mid 2000 to the late 2000 thereabout, so many submarine fiber optic projects have sprung up in the African region. In Ghana alone, we can talk about 4 already in Ghana that connects Ghana to the rest of the world and to also to other African countries. Now, these infrastructures, the submarine upper cables, are the main infrastructures that you need to be able to access internet anywhere in the world. So as far as that is concerned, it's been a huge improvement. We've actually improved. But when I talk about the innovations around it, is how we are actually using this capacity that we have right now. Are we using it in such a way that it helps the masses? Or are we using it in such a way that we make a lot of money from this? And this is where I believe has actually stalled innovation in most African countries, and especially Ghana, where I come from, where at least I worked as a transmission engineer for 1.5 years with one of the mobile companies who hoping to have their own submarine cable. I mean, they were the only company who had their own submarine cable that connected to the rest of the world, and I worked on that particular project.
So if I get you right, you mean that the backbone is there,
Yes.
but the problem is how to distribute it or how to get it to the people, right? So you mean to say
Yes.
Africa doesn't have a problem with the backbone because the backbone is there, but the problem is innovation around getting internet to the people.
Yes, and this is where when I say the innovation around it, it's not that there have not been any innovation around it. Is the innovation geared towards helping everyone get access to the internet and to be able to use internet to the most effective manner for research and development, for so many things that people in the Western countries like Germany would use the internet? Or is it geared towards a certain kind of market where they can generate the most revenue, especially social media and all that? You see, when you look at the Western world, I mean, most of the European countries and in America, the use of internet is not just about social media. It involves a whole lot, which you would realize that social media and all these aspects is just a fraction how internet is used. But when you look at the African continent, and especially in countries in the sub-Saharan, you realize that our internet usage is much more focused on social media, how to access, how to use various social media platforms and all that. And I believe this is not the most efficient way we can use internet to help elevate us from current economic situations and all that. It starts innovations. People are the youth do not really have access to internet where they can be very productive and develop things around them. So that's also another kind of innovation that is start. But as far as the telecommunication companies are concerned, they are making their money, because for even an individual to be able to use the internet, they have to use a WhatsApp, they have to buy data, which they have to access through your phone, and you realize that mobile data to be what sells in most of these African countries, but not connectivity access to the home, which is where we can actually effectively use internet.
Mr. Sechi,
Yeah.
do you agree with answer that the problem of Africa is not about the infrastructure? Because I think, if I understand it correctly, what it means is mobile internet, but there are two different types, right? There's also the fixed broadband.
Yeah.
So can you generalize to say the problem is not about infrastructure?
I don't think so.
Okay, so what do you think?
Infrastructure is still a problem. Now, what Frimpong was trying to describe is just the backhaul. If you look at what we have in this country, most of the submarine cables are resident in Accra. You get it. Now, Accra is not just the hub. You have people all over the country who would also need to use internet. Now, how do we get it across to them? It's infrastructure. So I don't think that the assertion that once you have the backhaul ready, then internet is available. No, I don't think that is correct.
So where do you think we stand now? Where do you think we stand now? So you say it's partly the problem is about infrastructure, but do you think we've made progress this far?
Yeah, progress, we have made progress. We have made progress, a lot of progress. When I was in school, the internet capacity at the time was not even up to 50 MB for the whole campus. Now, KNUST has several streams of internet, and they are talking about gigabytes. So definitely, they've got the capacity now, which wasn't there before, maybe some 8-10 years ago. You get it? So they've come a very long way, and it has greatly improved the life of students there. When we started telecommunication, we know of GT, Ghana Telecom, which now is Vodafone. They were the guys who had, let's say, majority shares in terms of internet and all of that. But now, all the other companies, you can talk about Glow Mobile, you can also talk about MTN, Airtel Tigo. All these guys, they are in the field giving access. So from one, we have several of them now, and it is really helping everybody. But just that, as you would agree with me, the concentration is on a few areas where, as if you're a businessman, you would also understand that you need to put your money where you get it back. So the major cities have a little bit more access than the rural areas. So as it stands now, there is inequality. You are in the big cities, you can enjoy internet service almost everywhere you go. Wi-Fi services are now very common in the cities, but you go outside of it, you hardly get anything like that. So in terms of this, you would agree that if we put in infrastructure, if we have policies in place that will promote the implementation of telecom infrastructure or
devices or things that will make internet easily accessible all across the country, then people can easily join in. But as it stands now, it's a businessman driving the whole agenda. So he's guarding against his profit. And so we wouldn't want to go and put it in an area where there are a few people and then you will not make a lot of money. So infrastructure still plays a key role.
I will come to you, Isaac. Thank you very much also for your submission. But I also had a follow-up. I feel Isaac already answered part of it, but to Dr. Ansah, when you say that the problem is more of management of the infrastructure, and you went ahead to mention innovation as a key challenge. But I just wanted to ask you, how is innovation different from infrastructure in internet connectivity?
Well, so basically what Isaac said is basically what it is, and it's the picture on the ground, because I worked with Isaac when we started our career together. We were all in the telecommunication field. You see, what about the infrastructure, the innovation around the infrastructure? Basically, right, I was talking about the fact that, of course, building terrestrial fiber optic networks within the country is part of infrastructure, but it is another form of innovation. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? Now, I made a point that it's businessmen driving this innovation, okay? And it's true. And if businessmen are driving this innovation, then of course they will steer the innovation towards an area where they will make the most profit, okay, which is the mobile data, right? However, with lease lines going to homes and all that, there's also a huge market there. But because there aren't any policies within, let's say Ghana, for instance, there aren't any policies geared towards giving people access to internet, like people have access to air and water, right? They are not able to build the innovation in that aspect. So at the end of the day, you realize that yes, there is innovation, yes, there are structures, but these infrastructures and innovations are geared towards profit rather than helping the people to have efficient use of the internet that's available. And then, of course, the issue of management is also key. Isaac rightly mentioned that some time ago, I mean, in the early 90s and late 90s, it was only Ghana Telecom, which is now Vodafone, that had this internet access, and everybody had to go through. Whether you want to make a call to, all foreign calls, everyone had to go through Ghana Telecom, right? Now, as time went on, these new submarine connections and everything came in, and companies like Glow Mobile and Ghana Vodafone have built extensive fiber infrastructure. I believe if these fiber infrastructures are streamlined and managed, and the government tries to put in some policies that is geared towards effective use of internet and providing internet accessibility to everybody in the country, then these business people and the Ghanaian government policy will be aligned, and then it helps everybody. But as it stands right now, it doesn't exist, and therefore businessmen would definitely try innovation towards an area where they stand to make the most profit.
Maybe we should just ask ourselves this question also. When we talk about internet access, do we necessarily need to restrict it to a particular mode of connection? I mean, are we only interested in, let's say, mobile internet access or broadband or fiber to the home or any of this? Because for me, internet is internet, and if you can access it on your phone, you are as good as anyone who has it at home. Now,
Yes.
the challenge on ground is you realize that planning has been a very major issue in this country. Now, the businessman is looking at making profit. yes, they are making strides in now deploying fiber to the homes. A lot of homes in the, how do we call the places, well laid out communities in Ghana now have fiber. So fiber to the home is becoming something that the modern homes in Ghana are enjoying. If you stay in an area where the settlement is dispersed and all of that, there is no proper layout and there is no planning and all of that, then it will be a challenge to give that kind of internet access to those people. You get it? So we are doing as much as possible. Fiber to the home is going to areas where we think the layout is okay and the people there have need and can pay for it. Because as it starts now, you also have to think about your return on investment. It is not a government that is deploying this fiber, it is individuals and companies. So they are looking at people in society, middle income people who can purchase or make payments. So they'll push their services right to the doorsteps. It is now left to the government to formulate policies and say, well, if from maybe 2020, if I'm doing any new road construction, I'm going to lay that around along the road so that it becomes easier for.
Before that recommendation,
Yeah.
you said something about the price, because the private man who is leading this is in for the profit.
Yes, correct.
Is it okay to say the internet in Africa is excessively expensive? Because I mean, if you look at the figures,
I won't say it is excessively.
yeah, because if you look at the figures that we have here, Sub-Saharan Africa is the region with the most expensive internet, and the highest, I mean, we are talking about fixed broadband, because I've not seen the mobile broadband price rankings. But if you talk about the fixed broadband, the highest internet price is 786 by Mauritania, whereas Ukraine is paying $50 for the
Now,
same.
this analysis of prices, I normally have a little bit of reservations towards it. If I may ask you guys there, how much do you pay for a gig of, let's say, mobile internet?
Evans, can you answer this question? I don't normally use.
I just want to have an idea.
No, I think it would be a bit difficult to tell.
Yeah, so I don't know, but let me step in here just to make something clear. There are different kinds of internet access, right? There are some internet access that requires dedicated access lines. And there are some internet access that are broadband internet. These technologies or these accesses cost very differently, right? But at the end of the day, they are all classified as internet. So for example, if I'm looking at dedicated internet access, right, that will cost about 5 to 6 times broadband internet access, right? But often than not, when people are doing this categorization, they put everything together. So sometimes some of these lease lines, you see one country, it might look very, very cheap, and in another country, it might look very, very expensive. But these are things that they don't actually tell you. And even in dedicated internet access, we have dedicated internet access for businesses and for private individuals. We have broadband internet access for businesses and then private individuals. And all these things come with different factors. And most of the time, what actually goes into the price difference, of course, the access is one. So the service level agreements or the quality of service and service level agreement that surrounds it. These non-technical stuff kind of add so much to the price. And often than not, when people are doing this categorization, they don't actually take this into account. So you see this huge price variation. Where I think that a very good comparison can be made is on mobile internet. Right? It's on mobile internet. You see, people in countries like the Ukraine or in Germany or in the US can access internet through different means. That is through connectivity to homes and also through the mobile internet and even the possibility of bundling everything together. Most people in Ghana or most people in sub-Saharan Africa only have one form of accessing internet. Connect to a public Wi-Fi or connect to the telecommunication infrastructure like 5G, 4G, or 3G. You understand? Now, these different dynamics can result in huge price differences. Also, you look at a country like Mauritania, you look at a country like, take a country like Burkina Faso, and then a country like Ghana, for example. You wouldn't expect internet access in Burkina Faso to be cheaper than Ghana because access contributes a lot to the price. Burkina Faso doesn't have a submarine fiber optic. For them to be able to access this backhaul, have to lay terrestrial fiber all the way to a neighboring country that provides it. This costs a lot of money. You have thousands of devices or hundreds of device ADMs, these transmission equipments in between, and these cost money. So all these things are factored in to the price. But for the mobile access and all that, you can make that comparison. But that's where it costs maybe 50 pesos per 10 megabits in Ghana, and then maybe 40 pesos in maybe in Burkina Faso. But even sometimes, right, even with mobile data, countries in sub-Saharan Africa have cheaper mobile data compared to people in Europe and even in the US and sometimes even in Canada. Yeah.
So, but the data we have doesn't seem to depict that picture, because there is a data here which shows that 1 terabyte of mobile data in Africa costs on average $6.44, which is the highest.
1 terabyte or 1 gigabyte?
No, they calculated it per 1 gigabyte, sorry. So 1 gigabyte of mobile data costs $6.44 in Africa compared
that's in Africa. In Ghana, it's way cheaper.
In Ghana, it's way cheaper.
How much is it in Ghana?
When a gig is less than 15 cedis, and that is around $2.
So again, this brings back to access, right? Even with the mobile data, you don't expect Orange as a solution provider, right? In a place like Burkina Faso or Niger, right? Who do not have these submarine cables, they still need to provide internet the same means by which Ghana, Ivory Coast, the rest will be providing this internet, right? Don't expect them to be operating a telecommunication system in these countries and then have cheaper access than people who are already in the coastline, who have submarine cables or these backhauls terminating on the coast. So these things factor into it. So when you calculate the average, right? When you calculate the average of all these countries and you put them together, of course, on the average, it might seem very high. But then when you go into the individual countries, there you see that certain countries have very cheap. Okay, and again, this brings us to the question of we treating Africa as if it's a monolithic society, right? But it isn't. There are so many differences, even when you move from one country to the other. And these differences,
so if you say
you cannot sum them up in an average.
Yeah, so we agree there are differences. Let's zoom into Ghana. would you say that the mobile data in Ghana is not expensive?
Comparably, from
if you compare it to what we have, if you compare it to what we have outside, depending on which plan you are buying, I think mobile data is quite cheap in Ghana.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, most of you guys would also agree that even when you want to make calls from Europe to Africa and then the other way around, it is much cheaper for us to originate calls from here than you guys making calls from there. If you have to use mobile, how do you call it? Mobile
direct call. If you have to do a direct call, right?
Postpaid or anything on the mobile network. Yes, if you have to do a direct call, it is much cheaper from Africa to Europe than the other way around. It's the same thing with data also. Now there are so many mixes of offers that suits almost everybody. We have midnight bundles, we have off-peak bundles, we have data that never expires. I mean, the combinations are a lot. And then the average pricing on this is quite reasonable.
Yeah, so I mean,
because someone can give you 1 gig of data, you pay this much maybe for 30 days, or it doesn't expire, and you have, so generally speaking, I don't know what reference you market against, but data in Ghana is okay. It's reasonable.
Well, basically, one thing I would say is that, of course, in Ghana, data compared to is even cheaper than in Canada and also in the US. From the last data that I mobile data, I think Canada was about $8, whereas for the same capacity, and Canada was I think $10, US was $8. And then I think Ghana was $2.6, right? Yeah, but at the end of the day, we have to look at how this internet is used, right? We have to look at the usage of the internet. Now, there are certain tasks, there are certain things that you use internet or that mobile data cannot actually do the required satisfaction, right? The required quality. Okay, and this is something that people in these countries can get through this direct connectivity to their homes, whereas people in Ghana do not have this access. And of course, Isaac make a very good point that this does not just depend on the solution, it also depends on the government building infrastructures and building policies that align with these business goals that will help people get access to internet. So I think for price wise, yes, it's cheap in Ghana, but we have to look at the usage of internet in Ghana, how its usage can actually open so opportunities for people.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Frimpong and Isaac. We will definitely come to the usage and how to improve upon the quality, but it's still a bit intriguing. I mean, before I ask another question, it's quite strange that at the beginning, both of you agreed that it's businessmen who are driving this innovation of internet connectivity. And for sure, we know businessmen are in for profits. So it's a bit of a puzzle when you say that even with the broadband or the mobile data, it's still cheaper in Ghana than, let's say, in Germany or in the US or in Canada that you quoted. But in any case, what makes internet affordable in Ghana? I mean, I know you explained some of the technicalities, but what is making it affordable in Ghana than in some of these countries that we compare to?
So Ivan, before you come to that question, I wanted to ask, I really don't agree with them that internet is cheaper in Ghana. So the thing is, they made us understand from the beginning that there are different forms of internet, right? Here, we feel the internet is cheap because we use the broadband mostly, and I have higher volume of internet for a very cheap amount. So, for example, in Germany, you pay around 30 euros per month for your home internet.
Yes.
That's a small amount of your income. Whereas in Ghana, we are selling only mobile data. And if you tell me that 1 gigabyte is less than €2, $2, how much of 1 gigabyte do I need per month? So if you do the calculation per month, then it's not cheap, right?
Okay,
so the thing
at the end
is,
of the day, Isaac, can I take this? At the end of the day, right, when you are comparing something and you are comparing it with geographies, right, you need a reference point, and the reference point is the currency, right? Now, after you've considered the currency aspect, you have to also consider the socioeconomic conditions of these individual countries. And that is where the disparity comes in, right? You made a point that in Germany, maybe you are paying 30 euros for your internet to homes, right? Now, there are so many factors that have gone into it to make sure that you are getting that price point for that service. Whereas in Ghana, the things that need to go into it for people to get internet in the homes, for them to be able to get that price point, don't exist. It is mainly driven by the businessman who must get his money back, and therefore it costs more over there, right? Now, the second aspect too is you talk about the socio-economic aspect of it. Now, when a businessman is going to buy a device from telecommunication vendor like Huawei or Alcatel-Lucent or Nokia or Ericsson, they don't go there and say, okay, I'm from Ghana, so give me Ghana price, right? It's the same price that they sell to companies in Germany or in the US. It's the same price that they sell to people in Ghana. It's the same currency. Even sometimes it's expensive because of logistics and certain license issues here and there. Sometimes it's even much more expensive to even the same, for example, Cisco device in Ghana. It's expensive to sell that, to buy that device in Ghana than it is to even buy it here in Germany. You understand? So sometimes even the solution providers like Glow Mobile, Vodafone, MTN, and the rest, sometimes they are even buying some of this equipment at higher cost than their counterparts in some of the countries that some of the countries like Germany and the US, and yet still they still manage to be able to keep the price point low comparatively. Now, you ask me, how are they able to do that? Well, the reason why they are able to do that is what we call functions. There are certain things in the IT solution management and IT what they call cross function. These are the guidelines, the governance surrounding how these services are provided, right? In Europe, these standards are really high to the extent that if a solution provider fails to deliver something, it comes at a very huge cost for you not meeting or defaulting your SLAs and your governance guidelines. Whereas most of these providers can actually get away with some of these things and therefore doesn't cost them that much. And that alone, that aspect alone can reduce the price point to about maybe 50%. That is why they have it cheap that way. So that's even if I'm coming to your question, this is why they have it cheap over there. As far as buying the infrastructure, integrating the infrastructure, providing the service, it costs more in Ghana than it costs even in Germany. So we don't use socio-economic situations to go to the world market to buy equipment, unless we are developing the equipment ourselves.
Interesting. Before I allow you, Edmond, to come in.
No,
maybe...
I would want to hear from Mr. Sechi.
All right.
Yes. So my colleague has said it, and that is it's if the field of play is not level across the various markets. So you can do something. It's just like, for instance, electricity. In Ghana, it can be taken at any time. You just complain and let it go. Services are interrupted. I mean, it's kind of, it will go and come. I mean, just be a little patient. But over there in your country, if you give me an SLA of this, I mean, I don't get downtime of 1 hour in the whole month, and I exceed that, I'm paying a lot of money. So it's more like insurance. Because I'm going to have to do something when I default, I make sure I charge you accordingly. In Ghana, we don't have those things. The laws are there, but it is not being enforced properly. So then there are laxes in everything. Because if for us in our part, it's more like the service providers are doing you good. They are giving you access. Whereas in the developed country, I mean, it is synonymous to having pipe water in your house. I mean, it has come to stay. I should have it once I'm resident. I should have it. I should have access to it. But here, the access is not the same. There are so many factors. So the pricing of it, it's not going to be exactly the same thing as you have out there.
Thank you very much, Isaac Sechi. So if you're just joining us, this is SEPSA Talk. Today we are discussing internet access and affordability in Africa. And don't forget to still send in your questions. I read some few messages from Facebook. From one from Kwejo Nyama says, Dr. Frimpong is indeed making good submissions with great analogies. A.K. Mensa says, did Mr. Sechi say having mobile internet should be enough? And then I read the last message, then you can address that question, Sechi. From Houston Emmanuel says, for every 1 Ghana cedi you spend here in Ghana, almost 42 pesos of that money is going into taxes, fees, levies, and other charges. Also, I disagree strongly when you say service providers are ripping off, because you can't even compare Ghana to London, where there is Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, and Burkina Faso, who are her classmates. If telcos are fleecing you and making abdominal profits, why are they merging and some being bought for $1? So maybe one question to you, Sechi, did you say that mobile internet should be enough? And then maybe to both of you, but Frimpong will go first. When the commenter says that he disagrees, if you think that it's the service providers that are making profit. So Sechi.
Well,
Sechi first.
Okay.
I don't agree. I mean, the initial question that triggered that answer was the forms of internet access. So mobile internet access is just one of it. It is not enough. It depends on what you intend to do with it. Mobile internet is just internet on the go. So you can have various forms of internet, but what I sought to put across was the pricing of internet cannot be the same across board. You cannot have broadband internet being priced the same way as you have for mobile internet. So I used mobile internet because it is readily available, and that is what a lot of people have access to. But not to say that it is having mobile internet is just what it should be. No.
Well said. Frimpong, do
Yes,
you think
so
that? So go ahead. I'm sure you got a question.
go ahead. Repeat the question, please.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask from what the commenter said, that it's not necessarily true that the providers are ripping off Ghanaians.
Well, I wouldn't put it the way the audience actually put it. I'm saying that the providers are ripping off Ghanaians. Yes, they may be ripping off Ghanaians in one way or the other, but they are ripping off Ghanaians in one way or the other because the government's inaction is enabling this rip-off. You understand? They are business people. They need to make profits. If they don't make their profits, their business will run down, and then they have to pack and go.
Ripping
right?
off is a harsh word.
That's why I said it's not
ripping off is a harsh
about
word.
it. I'm not saying they are ripping them off. I mean, of course, if you go into details, there are some rip-ups here and there and all that. But I'm actually talking about the fact that the government's inaction and inability to put down infrastructures that would ensure that its citizenry is able to have very good access to internet and hence be able to create innovation on this internet access is what is allowing the businessmen to actually drive the innovation to where they think they can get their profit. Because at the end of the day, it is not upon the business, it's not upon the telecommunication solution provider to come to a community like Jamestown and tell them, hey, okay, this is how to build your roads, this is how to build your drainage. Put a dot here, put a dot here, so that we can put a fiber cable there. These things need to be pre-planned by the government, especially the Department of Settlement Planning.
All right.
When these infrastructures are in place, the providers can then go ahead and then provide internet access to homes, which can be effectively used more by Ghanaians than the mobile internet on the go.
All right.
Okay, but at the end of the day, this is not there. And therefore, they only go with mobile internet access. And I believe mobile internet access is not enough for Ghanaians to actually be productive with as far as internet connectivity is concerned. Because mobile internet is basically used for social media and stuff.
All right, thank you very much.
Just to make a little bit of submission here, it is not as if the government or regulators are doing nothing, because it just came to mind. There is this special fund they have in place for communication development. So everyone who makes a call, they take some money and all of that. So for less privileged locations, the government is embarking on programs that is expanding access. I know about rural telephony. Those days, everything is concentrated in Accra, the big cities. But the government has come up with initiatives that is driving or is funding telecom companies to build infrastructure that goes way into the rural areas that they didn't used to have internet. So the drive is there. They've started. Maybe the push, it is not going as it's supposed to.
Is there a strategic goal towards this? There a strategic goal?
Let's do this, gentlemen. We will definitely come to how to deal with some of these challenges as we move ahead. But for the sake of our time, we just wanted to build up on what has already been discussed here. And this, I think I would start with you, Isaac Sechi. I think it's quite clear, though it's still debatable when you guys still say that internet is quite affordable in Ghana in comparison to the other countries. But this brings me to the question of what Dr. Frimpong Ansah also talked about in terms of access and quality. So is it safe to say that perhaps it's cheap in Ghana, and so this is why the quality is very poor? Would you agree that the internet quality currently in Ghana is very poor? And if it is, what are some of the things we could do to help improve the quality? The same question for both of you, but I'll start with you, Isaac.
What is your measure of quality?
Well, you have to tell me, right? So that's what I'm saying. That would you then say that it's cheap? Because at some point you also brought in the angle that those of us or those in Europe and others, maybe they pay more, but they are able to have access to it for a longer period of time. That's why.
So reliability here plays a major factor. Having the service when you want to have it, anywhere you want to have it, is a key factor. In our country, the infrastructure is not so spread out to the extent where you are assured of having 3G, 4G mobile broadband services across. You may be within the enclaves of even Accra, but you move towards the outskirts and you realize that you are just getting edge on mobile data. So then from that perspective, if you are a user in that region and then you are doing a test for quality, you will not get any good quality, because maybe the return on investment from the locality, that area, you won't have a lot of people using data for anything. there are some regions or some locations where voice supersedes data. And so you have 2G very strong there, but mobile data, 3G, 4G is not very good. And you don't even have anything like wireless broadband or Wi-Fi service in there because the people in that area don't use such services. I'm not saying that because they don't use it, you don't have to create it. You get it. There have been instances where as mobile telecom operators, we have gone to areas which didn't have a history of high voice usage, only to put up towers or cell sites in those localities, and then within a very short time you are congesting. So it means also that people in those areas, because of the quality of the service there, they may be frustrated and may not be using the internet the way they are supposed to use it. So for the service provider, it looks like, oh, I'm not getting any how do you call it? I'm not getting any request, or I'm not getting any money from this region, so I'm not going to develop it. But sometimes when you drive, then that is where the policies come to play. When you create the access, you realize that there are people there who would eventually start using it, and then the usage will grow. So in terms of quality, we have challenges we are dealing with as service providers, because you have to plan for outages that are beyond your control, like electricity, which powers your cell site and all of those things, the cost of fuel, and some other logistic and infrastructure problems. So service is not going to be first class. It's not going to be first class like you would have in the very developed countries, because there you have reliable, how do you call it, lighting systems. You are assured people will not go and cut your fiber and think it is copper and they want to go and sell it and all of that. So these small things eat into the efforts being put in place to ensure service availability and service quality.
But you would not also blame it partly on the price, because it's very cheap. That's why perhaps we do not have. I'll come to you, Dr. Frimpong.
So it is not because of the price. The price for, if you that Frimpong tried to make an earlier submission. If you are a worker in Ghana, let's say, and you earn 200 cedis, 300 cedis a month, or 400 cedis a month as a security officer, and you have to buy data worth 15 cedis or 20 cedis. And depending on your usage style, it may last you a few days or up to a month. You get it? So compared to your salary, you would classify this as very expensive. But if you put this same mapping, this same pricing on the international market, you would think that it is very cheap. Do you get my point? Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyway, enough of that. I'll come back to you perhaps when Edmond takes over. So Dr. Frimpong answers same question, but maybe he asked the question, if you could also help us. How do we define the quality of the internet? And do you also think that quality is poor in Ghana?
Well, there are so many factors that goes into pricing, right? There's the technical SLAs, right? And then there are the cross-function SLAs, or let's say SLAs that have nothing to do with the technical aspects. And I think mainly Isaac talked about the technical aspect, which is reliability. Now, the other aspect is availability. And then also cost if these availability are not reached, right? In Ghana, right, how many times do you experience power outages? So many times.
To answer that.
Yeah. So many times in a day. Sometimes your power can go on and off.
It goes on unannounced, but these days I think they try to give you schedules.
Yes, I'm coming. I'm just trying to make a point, right? It goes on and off like that, right? Now, if it goes on and off, people's business gets destroyed. They don't get any form of compensation whatsoever, right? Now, had it been that anytime these SLAs are faulted, these people have to pay some sort of compensations to people who run on the services they are giving, right?
Sorry, Dr. Frimpong. What is this SLA? Because someone just asked.
Service level agreement.
Thank you.
So within the service level agreement, right, we have the technical, that is what you call the quality of service. And then we also have other aspects that comes in. So other agreements that come, okay, I want to have internet access 20, I want to have, let's say power. It's power kind of, it's a good analogy in Ghana. I want to have power throughout the month, but I don't want to have power outage more than 1 hour in the month, right? If I get a power outage more than 1 hour or within a 1 hour interval in a month, every time I have that, you are going to pay me, let's say 30% of the total invoice that I pay for the service, right? Now, if in that month you have about 25 hours, or let's say you have 24 hours. Okay, you have 24, let's say every time you have an hour outage, right? You pay 4% of the monthly invoice that the person will pay for this service, right? So let's say you have so many of these outages in 25 like 25 or 24 hours, that would be approximately 100%. That means you are losing, because of that 1 day period of power outage within the month, you are losing all the money that the person would have paid to the company, right? This is how some of the contracts in some European countries are done, to the extent that if I lose service for more than 2 days within a month, that is, I put all the hours together for more than 2 days within a month, you, the service provider, will end up paying me 2 times the price that I would have paid back to you, the service provider. The user will pay to the service provider, right? Yeah. And because this policy is there, right, you would want to factor in this policy into your pricing, and therefore the price will go high. But you realize that this is not the price that is just due to the person providing you the power, but also due to the fact that anytime he fails to meet that availability target, he's going to pay you back some money.
So if I understand well, that could explain why the service that we receive here is of higher quality than the service in Ghana, because when they default, there is a cost.
Yes,
in Ghana, there is no cost to it.
There's no cost.
We are talking about quality.
There is cost to it,
but not cost. Enforced. But not enforced. Let's put it that way.
It depends on you, the user. If for instance, you sign up with my company, and then you have the service level agreement and you can hold them to it, why not?
So ordinary Ghanaians can hold, for example, MTN.
Exactly.
But the question is how many
in the country. But let me ask the next question. So we are talking about quality. Speed is also a measure of quality, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the mobile internet speed in Ghana, as I found from the internet, is 13.2 megabytes per second, which is way than the global average of 55.34 per second. Also feed a little bit into the pricing. So, for example, if Germany and Ghana is charging the same amount, €2, and you are providing me 13.2 for €2 per gigabyte, is it not ripping off? And then in a way, because there is no regulatory body to oversee this, it's also a motivation for the companies not to improve the system, so they can still keep giving us internet for still.
Let me throw some light on how this supposed speed is measured. We have servers that are dotted around the world. So a mobile internet user wants to do a speed test to the internet. If there are no servers in Ghana, the system will choose the nearest server location. And that will depend on so many factors. If I'm in Ghana and let's say I choose a server, maybe in Nigeria or Togo or South Africa or UK or somewhere, you realize that the path to the internet usually goes to UK, where the exchanges are, before the redistribution happens. So you are in, let's say, London. If you do a test to a speed test server that is resident in UK, obviously you can go and come within a shorter time. You can push more bandwidth in and out quickly. In Ghana here, I go through so many hops before getting to a similar server that may be resident in, how do you call it, UK. So obviously you realize that the time it takes for me to leave here, go there and come back would be huge, would be larger than what you would be experiencing because of proximity. Now we have developed, we have built actually these servers in country. Most of the telecom companies and ISPs have them in these countries now as we speak. So if I am on my network and I choose a speed test server on my network and I do the test you are talking about, I get more than you are talking about because of the proximity now. Now I don't have to go to the internet and come back to access that same server because the server is just within the network of the service provider. So it's way better now.
Yeah.
Well, to add up to what Isaac said, well, there is also, when you say you are going to compare these internet access based on the speed, it depends on how these speed tests are run. But there's one thing that you have to note, that the internet prices or the mobile internet prices is based on the data that you are able to use, not the speed at which you are using it. Okay. And when it comes to internet access, speed and capacity aren't the same thing. You can have a very high capacity, but then you might have very low speed. It depends on how many people are on that very capacity that you have. It's like a road,
and even
right?
and it also depends on the handset you are using.
Yes.
Most of the devices we use here, are not up to standard. Excuse my language, but you won't have the same quality of device in Europe as what we have in Ghana. So definitely the hardware of the device itself has issues. If you have the same devices from the same vendor made for the same market, and then you are testing them on the same network, you realize that the how do you call it, the results will be way different. When we started with our 4G service and then we're testing, it became very evident. So you realize that sending how do you call it, your, excuse me, just a second.
So then let me come to you, Mr. Frimpong.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the speed tests, okay, the pricing is not based on your speed test. It is based on your data, the data usage, right? So of course you can have a certain speed, but the telecommunication company or the service provider is not charging you on the speed, it's charging you on the data you have used. And that is what the pricing is based on. That is the technical aspect for which the pricing is based on.
Okay. Now let's establish something here. We know, despite your defensive, how you are defending the telecommunication companies, it's still a big problem. Internet provision and internet quality on the continent is still a big problem. My next question to you is that, should internet be regarded as a basic amenity, same as water, electricity, and roads, as in other countries?
Yes, absolutely yes. And this is what I was gearing toward when I started my initial submission. The usage of internet in Africa, people haven't even realized how to use it. You understand? If you have internet coming to your house, like the normal amenities that they know about, you will see the amount of innovation that people would come up with. You see, most of these things that you see around, most of these social media platforms, and most of these solutions that you see coming from Europe and whatnot, okay, they were able to do them because something already existed which somebody could build a solution around, right? So like Isaac said initially, they can put a service in a place where they never even expected that people will even patronize it, right? And then they find out that, oh, within a short period of time, the whole place, the service is so congested that they cannot even support the people over there. Okay, and this is because the people have come to know something exists, and therefore they are able to do something about it. But how do you build a solution for something that you don't even know exists? So by you not having internet, by us not having internet access to the homes like we would have water and electricity, we are already handicapping our people and preventing them from being innovative. So definitely, yes, it should be a right.
So
I
think going forward, it is what we all desire. That you have a home, you have lighting system, you have water, you have internet. Because without it, you are limited. You don't have access to information and all of that. Now, the thing that drives this also is the content, as Frimpong just rightly said. What is the usage style of the people in our country? What are we noted to use the internet for? And when you do your analysis based on internet statistics, you realize that most of the sites visited by people in this part of the world largely are on social media, Facebook, a few other Instagram and those kind of things. Now, all these things are not services that we host locally. Suffice to say that the providers have realized that there is so much traffic coming from maybe let's say Ghana, that they are willing to put servers in our country to act as caching servers, so that the service provider saves cost on sending those same data to the internet via the international bandwidth. And then the users also locally will now experience some excellent quality of service because the servers are resident in their network here. So you want to go to Facebook, it's fast. You want to go to Instagram, it's very fast. You want to go to YouTube, it's very fast. Now, as a people, internet will thrive more if we have content that is on it, that people are directed to. Let me give you a typical example. When mobile money system was introduced into this country, there were a lot of reservations. I mean, people didn't like the idea that they felt they were not going to be in control. So mobile money didn't appeal to them much. Now it started going to the extent where you could pay for services, receive payment, and do so many things with mobile money. So the indigents have realized that, look, if you have to be part of the growing economy, you have to get it. You get it. Now, we provide internet service, be it broadband or through mobile internet service. And the people are left to just have it. What do they use it for? There is no formal induction or training as to, okay, you can do this with internet, so let's try and do something there. Then maybe the youth would start thinking around that, how do you call it? Start thinking around that particular content, become creative, and then it will fuel growth in that aspect. It is not non-existent. What we have are what has been shipped down to us, and they are the popular things everybody know about. Locally, what are we doing? If we have such things and then it becomes imperative, people will begin to use them. Government recently launched the e-government infrastructure thing. So, for instance, you can apply for passport online, do everything, and just go and then submit and do your biometrics in the passport application center. It has become seamless. So, as you would expect, a lot more individuals, middle income or literate, computer literate or internet savvy guys would prefer to use that option. And once they use that option and then they see it is hassle-free, these same people will become ambassadors. They will talk about it. So then you get people getting curious and interested in using such facility. You can go to a website of maybe a government institution, pay your taxes, do your things without going to the office. It saves you time and you'll be happy about it. Now, because of COVID, a lot of content have gone into e-learning stuff. So you would now have a lot more people trying to have, at the minimum, smartphones to be able to join certain platforms like yours to learn about things which initially wouldn't interest anybody.
But you see, Isaac,
but before you come in, because of our time, I think that I would ask a general question, which I'm sure would give you the opportunity to say what you're about to say. Trust me, Dr. Frimpong answer. Thank you very much. I think you guys have really nailed the nail right on the head. And I like what both of you said, also quoting from what Dr. Ansah said. Indeed, internet connectivity is a human right, because if not, it kills innovation. So the very last question that I ask both of you, and I'll start with you, Dr. Frimpong Ansah, is Sechi also said something that we need to drive the interest and curiosity in people to be able to use internet for various innovative uses. And so the question is, what can we do? I mean, let's limit it to Ghana. What can we do in the case of Ghana to be able to make internet affordable, accessible, and also reliable, and in the terms that you use? What would be your recommendation? What do you think can be done to be able to make internet more accessible and affordable? Please make it brief for us.
Well, first and foremost, I would say the government needs to do a lot in terms of planning our communities, our settlement planning. You see, we cannot allow people to build and put up structures haphazardly anywhere without planning. Once this planning is done, right, and the right systems are put in place, it will allow these solution providers to also use these infrastructures to build these solutions that will provide internet access. I mean, as an example, just imagine trying to get internet access to homes in a community like Nima or Jamestown, where even our drainage system is not well planned. It's impossible. So I think before we can actually streamline this to a point where internet access or internet to homes can become reality, we have to look at how we build our infrastructures, how we allow people to build their houses and put up structures. The government should use this as an avenue to generate revenue, to create jobs, okay? And not just allow people to do whatever they want. Before an infrastructure is put down, people from settlement planning will have to come and check the environment, make sure that the right drainage and everything is done. And you see, some of these drainage can be done by companies who will be contracted to do that even before the person can start building his infrastructure. And then the person puts his building on top of the land and then knows that at any point in time, I can get internet connection to my house because the infrastructure has been put down. And the government creates jobs from this. The government generates revenue from this. We don't need to go and borrow to provide all these things there. It's just a matter of getting our acts together and making sure that we provide the right platform for these service providers to give us what we crave for.
Edmond, do you have a follow-up question, or I should go ahead with a follow-up?
Go ahead with Sechi.
Yes, I wanted to come to Sechi just a minute, but Dr. Frimpong answer, I mean, his points. Okay, so now I'm thinking as a naive person, I'm not an internet person. Now, my question is, but how does an unstructured area affect internet connectivity? So I'm just wondering, I know Nima very well. I know the place is more like, a slum, so drainage, you brought in drainage system. So how does that affect access to internet?
You see, the fiber optic cables that we talk about, we need to be able to demarcate a right pathway for them to be laid, right? To the extent that if a technician comes to your area and there's a problem with your internet, the person knows the map and exactly where to go to fix it.
Fair point.
Right? Now, if we don't have anything of that sort, somebody can just get up one day, like an operator like Vodafone or Glo will go and put a fiber at the back of somebody's house. The following morning, you go, somebody is digging that same place and you will cut the fiber. This comes at a huge cost to the person who, the company or the provider who put that infrastructure there. And it's not easy to fix.
Well noted.
And this is because the right path, the right way or the pathway has not been provided for these things to be put there. And therefore, you cannot even hold the person who cut it responsible.
And it might not even be his fault. He probably also will not have any knowledge that.
Exactly. And so at the end of the day, in as much as I say that innovation is kind of geared towards the providers making money, which some people might translate as being them ripping off Ghanaians, it is something that has been enabled based on the inactions of the people who are supposed to put those plans and those policies and those structures in place for this to happen.
Thank you very much. Points really well
I have
made.
a small question for
all right.
If I can. So, for example, in places like Nima that we cannot lay fiber optics because of the plan, is there a different?
It's not just Nima. It's
no.
Nima.
Just as an example, is there a different approach? Because I know in UAE, for example, they have mobile internet with a speed of 193 megabytes per second, right?
Yes.
So do we have alternatives?
Yes, there is a new technology called free space fiber optics, right? Free space fiber optics, and I think for a place like a very congested place like Nima and all that, these technologies can be used, but then they are also very expensive. That means for every household, we should be able to from a central point, we should be able to project this free space fiber optic directly to that home and then provide that whole household or that whole area some form of huge data kind of capacity dump. Okay, but you see, it's expensive. The people there might not be able to afford it because those devices are very expensive. Just to put one there just to put one there. But if we had a fiber infrastructure with a right pathway that is going into every house through a distributed data frame, every house can connect to a point.
Thank you very much. Points well made. So Isaac, what would you say? What would it take government to make sure that indeed internet that we are all preaching that is supposed to be a right is realized?
It's policies. What I think basically the government can do is to have the right policies and then be bold enough to walk the talk. Because if you leave it for the businessman, he will definitely go in a direction that suits him. We have several things in place. We have charges on communication that is meant to be used to develop less privileged and less attractive areas for service providers. Government can take the initiative, go there and then force the telecom companies to come there, because if the government has money and wants to contract a service provider to go build masts and make it readily available so that if a service provider wants to go and then extend service there, you wouldn't be bothered with the cost of building a mast, fueling, and doing all those things. It will save the ISP some cost. And then the government would also be able to send data or internet or voice services to the very remote locations that they are looking at servicing. So that is just one part of it. And then we should also insist on some quality. It could be from the vendor devices, the devices that customers use, the mobile handsets or the laptops or the digital equipment they use to connect to the internet. Because if you have bad equipment, the likelihood of you not enjoying the internet service is very great. You may have access, but if your device is worrying you, you cannot enjoy such service. So it's left with the government to ensure that devices that come, ICT devices that come into country meet standard. Once they meet standard and then the access is provided through the help of these service providers and all, you realize that the growth will be organic because people will use the service, become ambassadors, talk to people about it, and then people will just join the bandwagon because it is something that has come to stay. Internet service is really a need for everyone. And so with the right policies and right direction from those in authority, I think that we will be able to make some headway. Once it becomes readily available, there are a lot of people to it. Just like printing, the cost will go down because it's going to be a shared resource.
Thank you very much, Isaac Sechi, and thank you very much, Dr. Frimpong. So before I allow you, Edmond, you take over so that you close us. We just want to read some few messages from Facebook here. One from our own AK Mensa says, I also disagree wholesomely that the price of internet is cheaper in Ghana. And the quality, I argue that is so bad and people don't get value for the amount paid for internet. I hope that you've got the education because I think they've taken their time to really explain this point of price and quality. Hosting Emmanuel also says attitudinal problems like theft of cables and damage to cables during road construction increases cost and unreliable mobile networks. Additionally, frequent power cuts forces telcos to fuel and run standby generators, etc. All these feeds into price of data. Thank you, Emmanuel. This has also been well articulated by our guest here. Ike Mensa again goes on to say, but Sechi, I'm surprised that the focus has been using the internet for social media, internet access, and its significance goes beyond these. I think he also made justice to those issues around content. And then the last one from Nana Kusia Amochewa says, it is impossible. There is no way internet in Ghana is cheaper. Please come again with it. Well, I would also perhaps say that you have a look at the video if we upload it on YouTube and see if you would be convinced by their suggestions here. Take over, Edmond.
Thank you very much, Evans. Yeah, I do also share the diverse opinions of our audience. But gentlemen, your concluding statement. I start with Dr. Frimpong.
Well, what I would say is we need very good policies. And like Isaac said, we need to walk the talk. We do not just create funds and stuff and expect them to do the work. There are so many things that through policies our government could be doing that will be generating huge revenues and creating so many jobs in the country. But the inactions is actually keeping us back. And we should not sit down and expect there's private public partnership, but it seems to be that it's the private sector that is basically driving all the innovations in Ghana without any guidance. Okay. It seems it is the private individuals that are guiding the government. We need to do more.
Thank you very much. Martin, you join us on Zoom. Do you have a comment or an intervention to make? Hello, Martin. Okay, then Mr. Sechi.
Sorry,
Okay, Martin, you can go.
I speak. Not at the moment, but I equally don't agree. Internet in Ghana is that cheap. And then interestingly, you can buy interestingly, you can buy data and then it's just vanish. It can just vanish. You can call the various service operators and then they tell you technical fault and then you use it without justification. So
that's the rip-off.
I don't know if they are technological hitches or what, but I don't think we've had the best of internet services in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Edmond, if I may, before you allow Isaac, and then I'm sure you would conclude the show for us very well. I must say that anyway, Isaac's internet has been very stable. You know, I don't know whether because he's an engineer and he works in that area. Maybe even better than our internet.
Better than Frimpong.
Maybe he's on top of everybody's internet.
Frimpong, my internet is better than yours.
Yes, yours is better than Frimpong's.
Well, he's the one who provides internet to so many people in the country on one of the best mobile networks. So he needs to have remote access to his switches and all that. So I would not be surprised. I'm using mobile broadband.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Sechi, your concluding remarks.
I think Ghana's market for internet is fertile. That's how come you have several submarine cables landing here, several mobile network operators struggling for a few subscribers in here. The people here are ready to use it, as we can see from what the private sector's involvement is showing. It is left with us to augment those efforts by putting in the right policies. I made mention of a few within the discourse, and I think that once we adhere to them and then we push it from that angle, we create local content, we use the funds judiciously, and then we create the opportunity for people to think around and suggest things like we are doing now. It will go a very long way to help. A lot of people using the internet means that the prices can also come down as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sechi. And viewers, that brings us to the end of our discussion. So we started by knowing the current progress or where we've come as far as the internet is concerned. What I got from our panelists is that, of course, we all complain about the pricing of internet in Ghana. They say it might be cheaper than in other places, for which many people also don't agree. But I think I give them the benefit of the doubt, because if we, as explained comparatively, it might be. But what is very obvious is that there is a bit of ripping up from the telecommunication companies, because they are driving this innovation without the help of the government, which means they decide where to invest and what to invest in, which also explains a bit of the poor quality of internet that we have in the country. So the message is to the government. Internet is a right, as we have all agreed here. It has to be considered as an amenity, and it drives the innovation. It's now the lifeline of everything that we do. So we need more investment in internet provision. The government should support the private industry, regulate it, and come up with policies that would help in the provision of internet. Of course, we know our limitations, but there are ways around it. There are different ways around it by which we can provide quality internet for our people to join in many other different ways. It opens ways, it opens doors. Now, especially in this time of COVID, we need internet to join the global space. We need internet to close the global digitalization gap. And so, young people, we say the next time you meet your lawmakers, put it to them that, of course, we need road, we need water, we need roads, but we also need internet. So they should invest in that. Thank you very much for joining us. You can always go to our platform on YouTube to watch our earlier videos. Make sure you subscribe and join us again next week as we bring to you another interesting episode. Have a lovely evening.